The 20th century was the golden age of genetics. From the discovery of the double helix structure to the sequencing of the human genome. These discoveries have led to the belief that human behavior and health are mostly, if not entirely, controlled by our genes. So the question is, do our genes really write our destiny? Or is it written by something else? Something we can control. The discovery of the genetic code led us to believe that our physical appearance and susceptibility to certain diseases are hardwired within our DNA. However, new advances in our understanding of the human genome have proven that this is not the entire story. A gene is the basic physical and functional unit of heredity. It is made up of DNA. DNA is a collection of chemical information that carries the instructions for making proteins. These proteins are the building blocks of the human body. Half of a person's genes come from their mother, and the other half come from their father. Contrary to our previous false understanding that each gene is a blueprint assigned to a specific protein, modern science has discovered that each gene has the potential to manufacture any one of 3,000 different proteins. Therefore, genes are not locked into a specific code. As a matter of fact, gene activity can change on a daily basis, and it often does. For instance, you could have a normal gene inherited from your parents, but due to environmental factors, the gene readout could become mutated and cause cancer. In fact, more than 90% of cancers are caused by environmental rather than hereditary factors. In the year 2000, Randy Schertl, professor of radiation oncology at Duke University, designed a groundbreaking genetic experiment. He experimented with pairs of fat yellow mice known as agouti mice. These mice carry a particular gene, the agouti gene, that renders them prone to infections, diabetes, and cancer. It also makes them yellow and obese. Schertl set out to see if he could change the unfortunate genetic legacy of these creatures. Typically, the agouti gene is passed on from generation to generation through DNA. So, an agouti mother will give rise to an agouti child that is also obese, yellow, and susceptible to life-shortening diseases. The researchers followed a straightforward approach. They simply changed the mother's diet. Starting just before conception, they fed a group of mother mice a diet rich in vitamins and other nutrients found in fruits and vegetables. The results were astonishing. For the first time in their history, The newborn mice were all normal in size, brown in color, and totally healthy. They were free from their ancestors' miserable life of obesity, diabetes, and cancer. This was the birth of the new science known as epigenetics. Epigenetics is the study of external environmental factors that either activate or suppress genetic expression, influencing the way a cell reads specific genes. These environmental factors signal different markers, the most common of which is known as DNA methylation. This means that instead of our lives being determined by our genes, they are more likely determined by epigenetic markers, shaped by our life choices. Researchers found that identical twins carrying the same genetic anomalies for schizophrenia could end up with one of them suffering schizophrenia while the other is completely normal. How is that possible? It was due to the significant difference in their epigenetic patterns. This means that while both of them are predisposed to schizophrenia, it is their individual experiences with environmental factors that increase or decrease the risk of developing the disease. Epigenetics is considered a paradigm shift in biological science. It converted the entire field's belief from genetic predominance to the predominance of environmental factors as the root cause of our biological changes. What controls the fate of the cell is not your DNA, but the environment around you. The signals received by each cell membrane determine one out of thousands of proteins that could be produced by a given gene. So, throughout our lives, our environment changes the activity of our genes, switching them on and off without altering the DNA itself. We create our environment through our choices of food, physical activity, thoughts, emotions, exposure to toxins and chemicals, and even the way we view the world. Our genetic expression is altered by all of these factors and much more. For example, smoking alone causes more than 50,000 alterations in our genes. Yes, 50,000. These alterations can lead to misinterpretations of that gene, thus causing cancer. In a study published by the National Academy of Science in 2008, a comparison was made between prostate cancer patients undergoing chemotherapy alone and another group who made changes in their lifestyle for 90 days without chemotherapy. The second group, who did not receive chemotherapy, showed positive changes in more than 500 different gene expressions. Now we understand why, despite our significant scientific advancements in genetics, we still fail to understand most of the changes to our DNA structure. We fail simply because we were looking in the wrong place. Instead of looking at epigenetics and environment, we were looking at genetics and heredity. Each one of our thoughts, emotions, actions, and decisions will send a signal to our genes. In turn, they will control the behavior and activity of every cell in our bodies. This is exactly why we are not prisoners of our genes. God has given us the upper hand by making our DNA respond to the choices that we make in our lives. Your DNA is only a blueprint, a piece of hardware, like a car engine, and epigenetics is the driver. This means you are the driver. through the choices you make in your life. Our genes and DNA are a book that is given to us by God. Ultimately, we are the ones who decide which words we choose to read, which passages we wish to emphasize. Whether we realize it or not, our actions choose which chapters will tell our story. What we eat and drink, how we move, what we allow our eyes to see, our ears to hear, our minds to ponder, and our hearts to feel are simply the sacred shades of ink in which we write.